Hello students, welcome again. Students, in today's lecture, we want to understand the different thematic patterns as found in a very popular novel, A Tale of Two Cities, written by Charles Dickens. So now let's begin. Before we discuss the themes presented by Charles Dickens in this novel, let me tell you that Charles Dickens was a very important novelist of the 19th century during the Victorian age. David Cecil, who has written the history of English literature, has rightly said that Charles Dickens is one novelist of his class whose books have not grown dusty on the shelves. Okay, so he is the only novelist during the Victorian period whose books are continuously read by the lovers of literature. And he further says that his popularity has suffered no sensible decline. Means he wants to say his popularity has been rising day by day. There is no decline in his popularity, and he is not only the most famous of Victorian novelists, he is also the most typical novelist of his age. So this is how, not only Cecil but most of the historians have appreciated the works of Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, if you examine his other novels like Pickwick Papers, like Great Expectations, like Oliver Twist, and all other such novels, you find Dickens as a social reformer. Why? Because it is through his novels that he tries to expose the social evils of British society during the 19th century. So you find socialism and moralism in most of his other novels, but as far as this novel, A Tale of Two Cities, is concerned, it is understood by the readers and scholars and critics on a different level. Why? Because it's a different kind of a novel which is written in the background of the French Revolution. Okay, here Dickens has revealed or he has expressed the ideas of exploitation and injustice of the poor people by the aristocrats. Okay, so that is one of the themes. Another theme of sacrifice is found. Moreover, if you know about the Christian crucifixion, okay, that crucifixion and resurrection, that these ideas are also presented in his novels. So one by one we are going to discuss all these ideas as expressed by Dickens in this novel, A Tale of Two Cities. The first one is exploitation and injustice. Friends, you must have heard about the French Revolution, which took place in 1789 in France, and then the whole revolt started across all countries in Europe. Charles Dickens has drawn that realistic picture of the British society after the French Revolution. Okay, he tells us how the aristocratic means the rich people, how the rich people used the common man as their vehicles for their own entertainment, how they exploited the poor people for their pleasure. Okay, you see, let me give you an example. In the beginning of the novel, A Tale of Two Cities, we come to know that a poor girl was raped by the Evermont brothers. Now, who are these Evermont brothers? Evermont brothers they belong to the aristocratic family, royal family, rich family. Okay, the girl is raped and his brother also is done injustice. He is bullied by these Evermont brothers. So later on, not only this, the second incident, Dr. Alexander Manette, who is the witness of this crime, he writes a letter to the government officers exposing this Evermont brothers. But when he tries to post this letter, he is also wrongly imprisoned for 18 long years. Okay, you just imagine that a man who wants to give justice to the poor boy and the poor girl, he himself is imprisoned for 18 long years. Okay, not only this, in this novel, there is also one incident where the Mr. Evermond, he crushes a little child of a poor man and under his meal and shows no sympathy over the death of that child. He throws simply one coin at the poor father of that child who is died because of Evermond. What is this? You are misusing your money. You are exploiting the poor people. All these incidents presented by Charles Dickens in this novel, they release the theme of exploitation and injustice done to the poor people by such rich people in England. Okay, so by presenting this theme of exploitation and injustice, actually Charles Dickens is trying to trying to expose the society, expose the aristocratic people of his times. Okay, so that is one theme. Second theme of this novel is duality. Duality means double. You read the title, A Tale of Two Cities. The title itself has this idea of duality. Duality means two. Okay, Dickens which are these two cities? They are London and Paris. So Dickens has presented the stories of a story of these two cities, London and Paris. Okay, so the setting is in duality. Not only that, if you see the novel, there are two heroes presented here, Charles Darnay and Sidney Carton. Okay, both these major characters, important characters, heroes of this novel, they control the whole storyline in this novel. So duality is found in the title. Duality is found in the heroes also. Not only that, the novel also expresses the theme of duality in the beginning. If you read the beginning lines of this novel, Charles Dickens begins the novel with these words. What words? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So, Charles Dickens is talking about two different opposite times, good times and bad times. So, this is how a dual approach or dual picture of the society has been presented in the very first sentence of the novel. So, duality is there. Not only this, there is a contrast of duality among the characters also. Like, say for example, Lucy, who is the heroine of this novel, her physical and moral brightness is presented as opposed to the dark Madame Defarge. Madame Defarge is a dark lady. On the other hand, Lucy is physically and morally a bright personality. Moreover, the contrast is also visible all throughout the novels in terms of conflict between the rich and the poor. If someone asks you what this novel is about, you can say this novel is actually about the conflict between the rich and the poor. It is a novel about the exploitation of the poor people in the hands of the rich people. So duality is spread around everywhere among all incidents in this novel. So that is the second theme. The first one was exploitation and injustice, and the second one is duality. The third, but this is the very important theme, central idea presented by Charles Dickens, and that is resurrection. Some critics believe that this conflict between the rich and the poor is actually not the central idea of the play of the novel. According to them, the central idea, the main theme of this novel is a Christian theme of resurrection, which means what? Resurrection means the whole image of Jesus Christ rising from his grave on the third day of crucifixion. Okay, when Jesus Christ was hanged and he was buried, after 3 days his image rises from the grave. So that idea hovers around all through this novel. This idea of resurrection is presented in the beginning of the novel. Why? Because when we see in the beginning Dr. Manet, who is imprisoned for 18 long years, okay, that represents what? His imprisonment represents his death. But after 18 years, he is released from the jail, from the prison. So that is called rising against the rising after death. Okay, that is called resurrection. In this novel, there is a character, Mr. Lorry. For him, this Dr. Manet's imprisonment is just like a grave from which Manet comes out. Okay, Mr. Lorry talks in his imagination. He talks to someone. He talks to some dead man, and in his imagination he starts digging out the grave with a spade. Okay, he tries to dig out the grave, and actually after 18 years Mr. Manet comes out from the jail. So that is that this incident projects the whole idea of resurrection of Dr. Alexander Manet in this novel. Moreover, during his imprisonment, Dr. Manet goes insane. He becomes a madman. Okay, he loses his sanity. But after his release, much love, service, and nursing care has been done by his daughter Lucy, and then he regains his sanity. He becomes a normal man. So becoming a normal man after being a madman, in case of Dr. Manet, that also projects the idea of resurrection in this novel. Moreover, the fourth theme which is presented by Charles Dickens here is the idea of sacrifice. Okay, like Dickens presents this idea, this theme, both on national as well as personal level. Okay, on national levels, what do the revolutionaries do in this novel? There are hundreds of revolutionaries who are reacting against the royal families. Okay, they start sacrificing their own lives in order to gain justice, in order to get justice for their fellow human beings, fellow poor people. Okay, what is it? That is also the idea of sacrifice. अगर कुछ आपको पाना है तो पाने के लिए कुछ खोना भी पड़ता है. That idea has been projected by these revolutionaries in this novel. Moreover, if you examine the whole life of Dr. Alexander Manet, he also sacrifices a whole 18 years of his life, in order to give justice to an unknown boy and a poor girl who is raped by the Everman brothers. What is it? It is a sacrifice. Okay, in choosing to die for his friends, Sidney Carton not only enables their happiness but also ensures his spiritual rebirth. So that also suggests this idea. Moreover, Charles Darnay, he sacrifices his family's wealth and heritage. Charles Darnay, his actual name is Charles Evermond, and he knows that my family, which belongs to the wealthy class of people, he does not want to stay there with them. He breaks all relationship with his family. He adopts a new surname, Charles Darnay, instead of Evermond, and he sacrifices his wealth, his heritage of the rich heritage of his family, in order to live a life which is free of guilt for his family's awful behavior. That is also a kind of sacrifice. The French people are willing to sacrifice their own lives to free themselves from the tyranny of the rich people. So, all these episodes presented by Charles Dickens represent or project this idea of sacrifice in this novel. One more thing that here we should remember is that Dickens suggests that while painful in the short term, sacrifice actually leads to future strength and happiness. मतलब कुछ समय के लिए सेक्रीफाइस अच्छा नहीं है, जिन जो लोग सेक्रीफाइस करते हैं उनके लिए अच्छा नहीं है, लेकिन उनका रिजल्ट बहुत अच्छा होता है. डॉक्टर मैनेट इज रीयूनाइटेड विथ हिज डॉटर. He sacrificed 18 years of his life, but then happily he is united with his daughter. Okay, that suggests the idea that Charles Dickens wants to say to the people, to the readers, to the world, that once you sacrifice your own life, for the betterment of others, you will also do betterment to your own life. Ultimately, it leads to happiness. Another fifth idea, the last idea that I find in this novel is about violence and revolution. You know that this novel, A Tale of Two Cities, is actually written with a historical background of the French Revolution. Okay, no doubt Dickens supports the revolutionaries' cause on the one hand, but at the same time he often talks about the evil of the revolutionaries themselves. So Dickens on the one hand supports the revolutionaries, that they are right, they must revolt against the rich people, but at the same time he does not support the revolutionaries in doing some this thing. ઓલા શબ્દ યાદ નથી આવતો. શું છે એનો શબ્દ? In spreading violence among the people. Okay, so Dickens deeply sympathizes with the poor people, the French farmers, and justifies their need of liberation on the one hand, but the novelist presents the Everman members as the cruel and heartless people who shamelessly exploit and oppress the poor people. Okay, so he also condemns the rich people and how they exploit the poor people, but at the same time how the poor people, they start violence against the rich people, that is also condemned by Charles Dickens in this novel. Mark these words: sow the same seed of rapacious license and oppression over again, and it will surely yield the same fruit according to its own kind. Means आप जैसा बोते हैं वैसा ही आप पाते हैं. So as you sow, so shall you reap. There is a proverb in English. So Dickens seems to suggest this idea that we should always bring peace in life. Okay, we should fight against injustice, but we should fight peacefully. So that idea of violence has been condemned by Charles Dickens in this novel. So all in all, we now come to the conclusion. Let me tell you that A Tale of Two Cities is indeed a magnum opus. Magnum opus means a great masterpiece by Charles Dickens. Why? Because it releases some very serious ideas of Christian resurrection and sacrifice, violence and exploitation of the poor people, and all such things. So here we come to the end. If you have any doubts or questions, do write to me in the comment section of this channel. In my next video, I am going to talk about the use of symbols in this novel. Till then, goodbye and have a nice time. Thank you for watching.